But if you're casting and actively seeking a fish and you get tight on them, there could be a nuclear explosion on the horizon.
You won't be moved.
This fish.
You will not be moved.
I wouldn't even notice, right?
Nope.
I would have radiation burns with that fish in the net. And that's a really special thing. And there's so much going on in all of our lives for everybody all the time. There's a lot of static. There's something in the back of your mind. There's something off to the side in the peripherals. And there's very few times that you can narrow in and focus like what you're talking about, where your tunnel vision just becomes you and the rod and the line and the river and the fish or ocean or whatever it is. And it doesn't last very long. But, man, it is
a special moment.
Pretty
dude.
cool. And when you come out of that, it's like you just had – a 20-hour nap.
Yeah.
It's a trance.
Yeah, it absolutely is.
Definitely
pretty special. These are stories of outdoor adventure and expert advice from folks with calloused hands. I'm James Nash, and this is the Six Ranch Podcast.
The exquisite 20th century Canadian writer Roderick Haig Brown said, "Were it not for the strong, quick life of rivers, for their sparkle in the sunshine, for the cold grayness of them under rain, and the feel of them about my legs as I set my feet hard down on rocks or sand or gravel, I should fish less often." And it rings true today.
Have you ever sold used cars?
No, but I did. I had to do a commercial for. So like, it's funny when you watch the show. Like all the commercials are usually me voicing whatever, because the brands are like, "Well, we don't have a commercial." And like, okay, well, we'll make one. And then like, well, who do you want to do the voiceover? Like, you can do it. So like, you watch the show and then it rolls right into commercials and it's just more of me, which is terrible. But I thought it'd be funny, so I was joking with one of the shops. They were paying for us to be in their area, kayak shop, and they asked me to do a commercial. So I was just like, well, what do you want me to say? And they're like, we don't know. So I just started doing that. And I was like, come on down to Candy Fork Outdoors where you get your kayaks. And they thought that shit was so funny.
They ate it up.
Yeah, they ate it up. And so they were like, can you just do it like that?
Yeah.
And so I had to do the whole thing
Nice.
like that.
Okay. Quick rules of the road. You can say whatever you want, but my grandma listens to this show.
Yeah.
She's
to
a
go.
beautiful woman.
Hi, Granny.
Yeah, Grandma Janie. My
Grandma
grandma's in the
Janie.
Pie Hall of Fame.
The Pie Hall of Fame.
The Pie Hall of
What
Fame.
pie?
Her specialty, like my favorite, would be huckleberry cream pie.
Oh, wow.
But she
I've
can
never
make
even had that.
she can make any of them.
Solid
Huckleberry
Steal.
cream?
Oh yeah, dude.
Dude.
Yeah,
I don't even know what that's like.
It's spot on. Well, you
You
don't
know what
'cause you're from
huckleberry
the
is,
South.
right?
Yeah, but
I don't think I've ever eaten a huckleberry.
I don't think I've.
Damn, huckleberry cream. That's
I've had a huckleberry jam, I think.
Yeah. So there's like a, it's a nice flaky pie crust, usually with bear fat out. I try to give my grandma bear fat. She likes that for pie crust. So then there's like this nice cream layer at the bottom, usually from a cow that she knows, right? Because she's an old dairy gal, and then this like gelatinous, huckleberry layer on top.
dang.
Jeez.
There's just nothing wrong with it. Yeah.
Yeah, there is. We don't have any.
We
Yeah,
don't
right,
have any
right.
right now.
It's terrible.
Yeah, that's half of a
You're
problem.
not allowed to talk about your grandma anymore.
Okay, so let's do introductions. Lael?
I'm Lael Johnson. I'm originally from Topeka, Kansas, and I moved to Seattle in the early 2000s, where I chased my dream to be a fly fishing guide and conventional as well, and trying to make people happy every day, hooking them one at a time or two at a time, whatever they want.
Like 2 at a time.
Jameson?
Jameson Redding from North Carolina. Still live there, but I travel the country fishing, mostly out of a small watercraft, kayaks, rafts, that kind of thing. Host a television show called The Road Trip Angler.
Nice.
Oh, you're looking
Lacey? Yeah.
at me. Lacey Kelly, fifth generation Floridian and spearfisherman, hunter, and fly fishing guide. Light tackle, conventional, mainly tarpon.
Yeah.
Like to chase the big poon in Homosassa.
So we've got basically everything except for New England present here.
Yeah.
Talking
Covering
about the
most bases.
fish in the corners of the country.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah. What's the fish most worth fishing for in the world?
We spoke on this a little bit.
Permit.
Why permit?
The level of difficulty, I think, and the complete. I mean, they're just sociopaths, really. You know, you just can't figure them out.
Especially on a fly.
Yeah, very unpredictable. So I think it leaves that element of you can be as good as you can be, and it still won't go right. So there's that.
Isn't that hard on your heart?
I mean, why do you sheep hunt?
I don't. I wish I could, but no. Sheep hunting is an interesting case, and if we were to talk about like the animals most worth hunting in the world, there are straight up sheep people that live for nothing more, and they dream about it their whole lives, and you know they find a way to make enough money so that they can go sheep hunt. And you know, for like a Dall sheep hunt in Alaska right now, you're going to be $20,000 to $30,000. And a good friend of mine who's an electrician in Montana, he just went up there to do a Dall sheep hunt. He booked it 4 years ago, saved really hard beforehand, saved for the last 4 years, you know, made payments on it, and he just went up there and whiffed. Came back with nothing but pictures.
Wow.
Tail between the legs.
And that's the case for a lot of people. You know, they think that because they pay a lot for a hunt that it's a guaranteed outcome, and it's just not the case. And the same thing is true of permit
fishing as well.
Sure.
Yeah.
So
Same with tarpon fishing.
I was going to say, kind of a different approach to that. You know, your permit is, like you said, it's a challenge. And for those of us that are like, man, I just want to, like, now I have to overcome this challenge. I think permit is a great one. But I think, like we talked about access earlier, I think for me it's redfish or smallmouth bass. I know it's kind of like two.
I knew you were going to say bass.
Well, it's smallmouth though, not largemouth, and
yeah.
specifically in a river situation.
Yeah.
I don't particularly. It's not that I don't want to chase them in a lake, but river fish are just different.
They're different.
They
are.
Yeah.
But redfish, I think for me specifically, sight fishing for them, and you're obviously sight fishing for permit, but just because there is such a broad area that you can chase them, they're accessible to a lot of people, and you just get like that feeling of seeing a fish, casting to it, watching it react to your bait, knowing you did it right that time, or maybe you didn't and you learned something for the next time. To me, that's like everyone should go at least once and try to sight fish redfish or river fish for smallmouth, either one.
And a redfish, like, you really know that you've tied into an animal when you're hooked up.
Oh, it's a good fighting fish, and
Yeah.
they fight hard, but it's just the visual, and it's the same with the tarpon. It's that visual, like, and the feedback that you get, and the immediate, like, I messed that up, or I need to change my lure, or I need to change the weight of it, or how it falls, or the color, and you don't get that with a lot of species, but sight fishing reds, and there's usually a lot of them, so you get to make mistakes if you're in the right area. Maybe not where you're at in Florida, but down in like Louisiana or somewhere like that where the water's a little dirty and there's tons of fish, like, you get away with a lot more. So it's fun. I think people can really enjoy it.
Redfish also hold like an interesting spot in our minds for just how they look, because you could look at them and be like, that's an ugly fish, and if you look closely, you'll think that's a really beautiful fish.
Yeah, the color.
I think the ones in Louisiana are particularly ugly. I mean, I'm not going to lie, but my redfish are pretty. I mean, they're like pretty little pumpkins, like those blue tails, like just like batting their eyes at you, you know? I don't know
where you're fishing at in Louisiana.
Right?
The ones I catch look like that.
I don't know.
And they're usually that really copper, like deep copper.
Okay, well, let's go to this. So as fish get larger, they get uglier.
No, that's true.
Let's face it.
Yeah,
A big-ass permit, sorry, Granny, a big permit is particularly ugly. Like, he has like an alien head, right? Mm-hmm. But a little baby permit is like the cutest thing you've ever seen in your life.
Yeah. Reds are definitely like that for sure.
Puppy reds are the best.
The bigger I get, the uglier I get too.
I don't know. I feel like men look better with age and women go
We're not
the
talking
other
about
way.
age. We're talking about size. Like the more pounds.
Well, I can't help you with that, brother. Not after talking about huckleberry pie.
Huckleberry cream pie.
I mean,
Yeah.
you're screwed.
boy.
Lael, what do you think?
I'm a steelhead, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. For steelhead, for me, it's like it's my love of the forest that made me love the fish, right? So I have to mentally get into this place where like I've just let go of everything that goes on in the world and let myself just be immersed in the forest, and then I find the diamond, right? If it wasn't for that environment, that fish wouldn't be that special. That's why I love it. So I really have to grasp on to one thing in order to get the next. And if you've done it like the way I do, my fishing is very very analog. You know, there's no digital stuff. I'm swinging a spay rod. I'm swinging at a fish that really doesn't want to bite, who's not really interested in like what you got going on, and you're trying to throw a fly in him, and you know, in front of him, and hope that you get this fly in front of this fish that's running through the river for a short period of time and is going to leave, and your window can be very short. So like I'm spay fishing to make it a challenge. It is a challenge. The weather it's nasty. I mean, they make Gore-Tex for where I live at, you know, and just being able to be in that situation, to be able to chase one of those fish that will rip the rod out of your hand if you don't have it on it, as well as a tarpon will or a redfish. But like, my hands are freezing.
Yeah.
It's cold, and it's just it can be nasty like that, like being locked in there, like being underneath that hood, and then your body gets on fire when you hook up. Like that's life changing for me.
Embracing the suck.
Man, but man, when it's good, it's good. I mean, just I've been in tears after a fish. There's one particular, it just broke me down because I mean, this is like, you know, I've been chasing this fish my entire life. I still would have chased this fish till my last day on this earth, and for me to be able to touch this fish, you know, while I'm, you know, still able to walk around, I don't need a cane to kind of get out there. Like, just broke me down, dude. Right. And I love that, like that thrill. Like every time going out there, I got an opportunity for something like that to happen. It trips me out. I'm just happy man in the middle of the sadness underneath the rain. So it's cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Steelhead are a fish that I grew up with, and they run through the river on the Sixth Ranch.
Yeah.
And we rebuilt the river to make it better habitat for trout, salmon, and steelhead in particular. When I went to college in Montana, we had some of the best trout fishing in the world, right? I was in Dillon, Montana. So like you start running down the list of best trout streams, they were within an hour of my college, right?
Yeah.
I ended up getting a D in fly fishing and fly tying there because
That's a class?
that's a class. It was actually
Why? Because you were fishing too much?
It's actually a minor. They had it in the evening in the springtime.
I knew what you were gonna say.
During the Mother's Day caddis hatch.
Summer classes.
Like you want me to go cast in a gym? Like this is the first dry fly hatch of the year, and you want me to go cast in a gym? You're out of your mind. I'm not gonna go sit in a classroom and tie a woolly bugger. I'm gonna go throw one, you know.
Right.
But anyways, we had tremendous trout fishing there, but we didn't have steelhead. We're on the other side of the Continental Divide. So me and my buddy Kyle would drive over the Continental Divide, drop down into the Salmon River close to where we are here, and fish. And that's a summer run of steelhead that doesn't start getting there until November.
Yeah.
And you fish for them until March of the next year. And we'd be going over in January and February and like climbing over like bank ice that was
Snow
10
drifts
feet
and stuff.
tall.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know, it was like exploring Antarctica, and you'd have a little can of kitchen spray, and, you know, you're spraying down your rod to keep ice from building up all the time. And I remember distinctively once, it was so cold. It was Super Bowl Sunday, and we each caught one fish that day. So
It's a good day to go fishing.
Stoked out of our minds. But we were all the way back to Montana before I could feel my feet again. You know, it was just miserable. But that's really a hallmark of steelheading, and I know that fishing in the flats can be windy, it can be buggy. You know, there's all kinds of things that are against you there. But steelheaders just suffer.
Man,
like that is a hallmark of steelheading. Is just physical misery.
You gotta be wired wrong.
Yeah.
I was
wrong.
gonna say you guys are really selling this.
You gotta be. It's different. Like I don't.
We have the polar opposite, though. I can bake any one of you out in the sun.
Oh, I bet
and I'll
you
be
could.
perfectly fine.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think there is a different kind of suck in the tropics.
Whoa.
Yeah, and
You know?
here we are in August in Idaho, and you're talking about like acclimating to winter. Like it's August.
Oh, yeah. But
Yeah.
this is very much so
Yeah,
winter.
this is
in
Florida winter for you.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Embracing the suck, just on that note, I'm sure you've experienced it, and I don't know if you two have, but in Louisiana when the no-see-ums are there,
Oh.
the little
Listen.
tiny
Yeah.
gnats.
Oh, we got no seams.
You know, like you want it to not be windy because it makes it harder to sight fish.
Yeah.
But you also don't want it to be calm because then the
Because
no-see-ums
they'll eat
just
you
come
alive.
out.
Oh,
And
my God.
I have photos where you can't even see the person that I'm taking the photo of because the cloud of bugs that is
Listen,
just there.
y'all can't talk to me about no-see-ums. When I bought my house a couple of years ago in Yankeetown, I drove by the Yankeetown school, and their mascot is a freaking no-see-um.
No.
The mighty sand
I
gnat.
don't know why those things.
And he's like in a little baseball little outfit.
And you guys have chiggers, which has got to be one of the worst animals on the planet.
bad.
No seams
I
is
think
worse.
no-see-ums
No
Chiggers
seams
and
are
sea
worse.
ticks. The sea ticks are next level.
I don't know what sea ticks are.
I don't know.
So
what that
sea
is.
ticks are smaller than a deer tick, and if you run into a certain bush that just happens to be populated by them, they will all get on
seed.
you.
Your seed ticks.
The tiniest
I thought you
ticks in the
said
world.
sea, like
Yeah,
as
seed
in
ticks.
They were in the water.
I rednecked that up probably.
No, it's the headset. I know
Oh,
exactly
sea
what you're talking about
ticks.
because they hang out on the little branches and like wait for you to walk by, and then you get them and they're tiny and you find them on your like
man.
it freaks you out. Anyway, I don't know how we got on that. I think the suck. All
No
that
seams
stuff
are
sucks.
bad. I remember I was guiding up in Alaska a couple years, and you start hitting coho,
Yeah.
pretty fast, and these people are catching fish and keeping them at this time, and I'm bleeding and I'm popping the gills out. I got gloves on, and they ate a ring around the edge of my glove in between my sleeve. I still have phantom pain from like the bites. Yeah, it's always terrible.
Little vampires.
Oh man, they're so bad.
Yeah, unnecessary roughness.
Yeah,
That's what I say.
penalty.
You guys should all go fishing if you're listening to this.
Right.
Yeah,
It's awesome.
There's a day I had moose hunting in Alaska a couple years ago where it was really beautiful weather, and that was a problem, like what you're talking about. And we had like the pre-hunt interview, and then the hunt, and then the post-hunt interview, making this film. And in the post-hunt, I looked like somebody got me with a shotgun, like I'd just been quail hunting with Dick Cheney or something. Yeah, it was rugged. It was rugged. Lael, something you talked about that I found to be super true in all kinds of things, whether it's hunting or fishing or something else in your life. You talk about the ecosystem and immersing yourself in it, but believing that there's a fish there that wants your fly.
It's faith. It's faith.
Talk me through that a little bit, because that makes all the difference in the world for hookups.
I mean, well, confidence in anything like that is in anything is going to get you to to the actual mountaintop. I've never tarpon fished, but Lacey, I want to go. I did just redfish for the first time about a month ago, and I was able to see a fish.
Yeah.
So I don't have to believe he's there. I could see him.
Yeah.
I like to fish glacial water. It's got a lot of scent in it. I mean, the river's beautiful. It sees all these little tiny glacial particles, and the sun hits the water and it lights it up and it sparkles. It looks like some like the best like toilet bowl cleaner you ever seen, but it's just gorgeous, right? You can't see through water. I mean, like a great day on the river, 3.5 feet of visibility. I don't know where they're at. Like I have a good mind.
Right.
I'm kind of studying the river, time after time, year after year. But I can't see them, and they don't roll, they don't tail, they don't do anything. They're very quiet, stealthy creatures, and they understand the river better than anything else that swims in there, right? I believe even in the salmon, because steelhead will come in and out of the river, right? So it is the ultimate amount of faith that you have to have in that this fish is going to be at this spot. Because like when you're spay fishing, you're going down the river in a raft or a drift boat. You can go down in a jet boat in some rivers also, but where I'm fishing out on the Olympic Peninsula, it's bouldery, and I got to pick this place, and I got to get out and I got to work this spot. And if I don't have the faith in this place, well, why did I stop there, right? If I don't have the faith in the fly that I'm using, why am I using it? If I don't have the right sink tip, well, why'd you put it on? Is all of these things just to guess and guess and guess and change this and change that. And then at the end of the day, it's like you can sit in your boat and you can fumble with your gear, but if you're not in the water, you're not going to catch them, right? So put all your stuff together and then have that ultimate faith that that fish is going to be in that spot and you're going down at the right time. The tide's right, the sunlight's right, everything's right. And then you get, you connect like that feeling to have all of those, variables that can just be screwed up, and then you get it right. It's incredible. But if you don't have any faith, you ain't got a chance.
Yeah.
Not a chance.
I think it's a fine line too. Like you want to have that confidence that you're going to catch whatever it is you're going after. Mm-hmm. But I find that over the years, I used to put a lot of really high expectations on myself. And that almost got in the way of being able to do stuff. And I'll use an example, and I've shared this on other podcasts, but I think it's important for people to hear, because it really changed my outlook in the last couple of years. We were going to Panama, chasing roosterfish and cabear snapper from kayaks, and I'd been there a couple of years, or a couple different times. And I caught roosterfish from my kayak, but I never caught a big one. And I really wanted to catch just a big, massive, and they have like world class. They actually have the world record roosterfish from that lodge in length. So they're there, and it's like that's what I want. I want that. And the first couple of days, I was filming other people fishing. They were catching giant roosterfish. By the time I put the camera down and start fishing, the bite would be off, or something wouldn't be right, or whatever. It wasn't happening for me. I wasn't catching the target species. I was catching other stuff. But there was a guy there who had never been out of the country, out of the U.S., so he's in Panama, first time out of the country. Never been away from his wife for more than 3 days since they've been married, and they've been married for like 20-something years. And he hadn't ate a lot of different things, so like he's eating stuff. Everything that he did from the moment he got on the airplane to go there was a different and new experience for him. And I'm watching him, and he's catching like these little triggerfish. His name's Chris Funk, by the way. He's got a YouTube channel called the Feral. I think it's Feral One. But anyway, you can look him up, Chris Funk. But he's catching these little triggerfish, and he's just like, he's just laughing, having a great time, like new species, throwing it back, catching something else. Yeah. And of course, he caught a big rooster too. But I'm watching him on the third day filming, and I'm just like, man, like he is having a blast. And I'm sitting here in Panama on a kayak, with a beautiful backdrop, beautiful beach, with a bunch of awesome people, and I'm worried about this one stupid fish.
Just getting inside your
when
head.
I could just be having a good time. And I think that a lot of people, like the doll sheep thing you're talking about, I mean, that's a lot of money. That'd be a little bit different story probably for me, but you plan this for years and years and years, and you have this expectation that I've got to go. This has to be worthwhile. Like I'm spending this money, I'm spending this time to go do this. But at the same time, you got to realize, like, it's still hunting, it's still fishing. Like, it may not happen. So don't let that one thing ruin that trip for you. Like you said, he came back with a bunch of pictures. I'm sure he still had the trip of a lifetime.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, like, yeah, it sucks that you didn't kill that sheep, or it sucks that you didn't catch that big fish, but you probably learned something. You got to meet some new people. You got to hang out on an amazing place. And every day on the water is like a gift. Like something, you as a guide, you're on there like all the time. Like something, you're going to get something from that day. Yeah. And whether it's the fish or not. So like, I don't know. For me, it's just like trying to remove a little bit of that expectations that actually has made me a better angler. And I've probably caught more fish because of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I used to have clients ask me all the time, fly fishing, like what's the hardest skill to master in fly fishing? Like what's the last thing to come? And I'd tell them that the hardest skill in fly fishing is enjoying it. All the other skills just get you to the point where you can enjoy it, and it's not a destination like that can leave. Right? Yeah. Just because you got it once, you got to the place where you can enjoy it once, doesn't mean that that's where your skills need to be from that point on. But nobody's fly fishing to feed themselves. Like ultimately, ultimately, it's a bunch of tools and skills and a method in order to find a way to satisfy your sense of adventure or
Yeah.
your connection with
You're trying
nature.
to present yourself with a bigger challenge. You know, that's
Yeah.
what I believe fly fishing is about. You know,
But if you can be awful at fly fishing and enjoy it, you're winning.
you are.
Yeah,
Like
100%.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
If you
Who-
can
who
go out
cares
there,
if you can cast good or not?
like,
Like, if you're having a good time,
if you can't get the fly out of the boat and you're having a great time, like you are a successful fly fisherman.
100%.
Yep.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
I fished a couple guys like that this year, and their attitude was just, just so infectious. Like it was great.
Yeah.
It was the doldrums. All the tarpon went offshore to spawn, and there was, just a few fish to be had, maybe a few shots during the day, and they had the best time ever. And I'm over here, grinding back here, thinking like I'm ruining their day, but as you change, your attitude and like kind of key in to their vibe, like you realize like they're having the best day ever.
Yeah.
And you
Now-
have to remember that every day that you get behind the wheel and you drive somebody out, like this is, while we do this every day,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
this is their day.
Yep.
I've got to pump the brakes on you here a little bit, Lacey, because listeners of the show know that I talk trash about tarpon guides every time I get a chance. And you're starting to sound like a good person, and I don't want people to...
Get the wrong impression.
Okay,
That's
so
hilarious.
help me with this, because here's what happens. People will come and fish with me, and they'll wad up a cast or miss a set, and they will physically flinch and like recoil and look at me like I'm about to beat them physically.
We don't beat them. I promise you. I mean, at least no one that I associate
Yeah.
with beats their clients.
Sure,
tarpon fishing.
sure. So I say like, "What's up? You okay?" And they're like, "You're not going to yell at me?" I'm like, "No, I'm not going to yell at you. Why would I yell at you?" And they're like, "Well, I was just down in the Keys, and I trout set on a tarpon, and my guide was really upset." I hear this over and over and over again. So what is it about tarpon guides and tarpon guiding culture that puts that kind of pressure on you that you guys have developed that reputation? Like, help me understand.
I didn't realize we had such a bad rap. But no, I really appreciate, someone else's perspective coming from the other side. I think it's two totally different sports.
Yeah.
And that is the problem. And I think that when fly shops and outfitters and booking agencies, book these trips for trout fishermen, freshwater fly fishermen, they do not prepare them for what you're about to step into. I tell everyone when they get to Homosassa, I'm like, you're in the big leagues. Like this is the Masters. Like, and if you think that you're going to come here and catch your very first tarpon on your very first tarpon trip and you booked one day, you might as well just go flush that, $800 down the toilet, because that's not what you came here for. You came here to learn.
It's
To
not
work.
that kind of
You
game.
got to work.
It's a jigsaw puzzle, so you have to put all the pieces of the puzzle together, and you're not going to do that. Granted, there's always that guy that steps on your boat that has never caught a tarpon before and gets it done, and you put one in hand and you're like, okay.
They're usually on the boat with someone that has done it like 20 times and still not caught a tarpon, though. You know what I mean?
No
That's
doubt.
my experience anyway.
Yeah.
Like,
that was me.
Yeah.
I have to learn everything the hard way.
Yeah.
I think I hooked 20 before I actually landed one on fly. Same with permit fishing. I tend to choose things in my
say
life
this
that
all
are
the time
incredibly
is
hard, and
You have to learn. You got to lose them to learn how to land them.
You do.
Live and die by that. It's just do everything that you can. Kind of take yourself out of your own head. Listen to your guide. Listen to your guide as best you can. You're still gonna screw it up because you're excited and we're happy
You
for
mean
you.
you're not supposed to show up and tell the guide how to do it?
Not usually. I mean, you can do what you want. It's like, I don't know if you get invited back, but yeah, you got to learn how to. You got to lose them to learn how to land them. That's just the way that it goes. I mean, I remember my first steelhead I hooked and on the fly, and I was just excited that the fish jumped and I got to see it, and then it was like 9-10 months before I had a taste of another one touching my line. I didn't know what I was doing.
Right.
You don't know what you're doing when you're starting.
No, I fly fished for a couple of years before I caught a fish.
Yeah.
And I was a little kid and I was tying my own stuff and it was absolutely awful. But I had to work at that for a really long time.
Mm-hmm.
And
How rewarding was that first fish, though?
well, here's what happened. And I am counting it, but I was walking upstream to a new hole. I had my rod over my shoulder,
No.
dragging line,
No.
and one of them just committed suicide. He volunteered his tribute,
But
and swam up there.
you had no expectations. That's why.
And it was really great. It was really great, but there was an asterisk on it because I wasn't casting or anything like that.
Oh, that's great.
But it was a start. It was a start, and it
Trolling for trout.
yeah,
That's a new thing, right?
and it led to something that's really beautiful for something that I hope to enjoy my whole life. I did burn myself out on fly fishing for a while. I guided too much, too hard, and I wasn't taking care of myself and making sure that I was still going out and fishing with my friends and my family and fishing my days off and remembering what it was that I loved about it. And my gear got dusty, and I just didn't go. And there was an entire year that I didn't fly fish at all, and it was good to get back into it and go out with people that knew how to fish, so that I didn't have to even think about guiding. Because even if you just go out with a friend who needs the help, then you end up in that guide role again. So going out with people that could also row the boat, they could undo their own tangles, they could do everything themselves. That's what turned the corner for me to be able to be like, oh yeah, like this is awesome. I love this. I love being out here. I love looking downstream for that next spot and thinking about how many oar strokes it's going to be between here and there, and how much line I'm going to have to punch out, and where that fish is going to be, and how he's going to present, and when I'm going to hook set. Like, I love that so much, and I almost lost it. I almost lost it forever.
I've been there.
It's
I've been
easy to
there,
do. Like
Same.
working
I've overbooked
in the industry,
myself. Yeah.
It's easy to do.
Yeah.
for sure.
Because you go and you do it every day, but you don't always do it for yourself.
Yeah.
And it's not that you should be selfish and always do it for yourself, but you need that. And it's interesting you mentioned that about having somebody with you that you don't have to guide. And I was telling my wife this, and it's like, I take her, my kids, or whatever, and I love doing that. I love seeing them connect on a fish. Everything comes together. My wife caught her first bonefish in the Keys this year. It was really awesome. And just like seeing them, like the smile on their face or whatever, them getting, and I'm sure when you guys guide, which I haven't really guided other than just friends like that and stuff, you get to see that a lot. However, I do still really enjoy those trips where I'm with somebody that also knows how to pole my skiff. And so now I don't have to be the one pulling the skiff.
I've heard that's a legit skill.
It's a skill, and not everybody does well with it, and they can be whether or not you actually get to catch the fish.
Yeah.
It can be whether or not that person, because boat position is so important, no matter what you're fishing out of, whether it's a kayak or a big boat.
Yeah.
Boat position is really key.
I would love to try it.
That's why I like spay fishing.
Come on down.
Yeah, I know how all kinds of boats work, but I've never had to pole a boat.
Well, it's always it's kind of a balancer for me, especially with I fish. Majority of my clients are guys. Let's face it, we're a growing community as women in the fly fishing community, but in saltwater, it's still it's not there. It's getting there, but it's definitely still not there.
You're doing a good job being a good representative. You're bringing more in.
I'll fish a guy, fish some guys like pretty much the entire day, and at some point, I want them to understand what I'm doing back here, and they all want to jump up there. Every single one of them wants to try if they've never tried before. So I'll sit down. I'm like, hey, you want to pull for a minute? I'm gonna, retie this line or grab a Red Bull or do whatever. Just take a breather, and it's humbling. They don't realize how much you're doing back there all day long for 10 hours a day. Sometimes 12. Depending on what's going on.
Right.
So it's a good balancer with clients. They appreciate you more. Yeah. Especially if you grunt as you're pulling, give it the tennis.
Oh, yeah.
It really has that effect on them. You got to act like you're working back there.
Yeah.
But having somebody like that that knows how to do that, then whatever it is, whether it's rowing a raft or drift boat or poling a skiff or just being able to tie their own knots or whatever it is, like
so refreshing.
those days are needed. Like
Yeah.
you need those days, so that you actually get to have those moments of like landing a fish or whatever it is. And it's a good balance though to teach and bring new people to the sport, or to show or like help them catch their first tarpon or their first steelhead or trout or redfish or whatever it is, but also have those moments where you get to like remember why you do it.
Yeah.
Because it is such, so much fun or whatever.
And that burnout has a nature of sneaking up on you, and you don't
know it
coming.
until
and then
You don't know until you burn out.
And then all of a sudden it's like, man, I haven't done this thing for 6 months or 12 months or 18 months. And, your brain just makes you do other things instead. Mm-hmm. And you suddenly realize that passion's gone, and you can get it back. Like I've done it, I've gotten it back, but some people let it go thinking that it's gone forever, and it's not. You just have to approach it from a different angle.
Yeah. So you talk about passion, and this is something like for me, and I'm kind of asking this question to you guys. Like, I think over the last 5 years of doing this, I started to question, like, is my passion actually fishing, or is it hanging out with other people outside on the water that also enjoy fishing? You know what I mean? Like, what is my actual passion? Like, is it catching? Like, I love that moment, like catching a big fish.
That's a good question.
But I also love going to new places, learning a new fishery, learning something from someone, or meeting people like you.
Well, there's a character arc in this too, because what you find satisfaction in now is probably going to be different than 5 years from now versus 5 years ago. We see a lot in hunting, and there's actually diagrams for it in hunting. Like there's a stage where people just want to experience success, and then they want to limit, right? And then they want like something that, is a quote unquote trophy, like of a remarkable size. And then they start thinking about other aspects of the hunt. And I think it's the same way with fishing. Where I'm at with hunting right now, I care very much about where I am, and I care very much about who I'm with.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that is where I find the success.
100%.
And that's a really nice place to be. I have no judgment whatsoever on the younger version of me who wanted to go out there and make sure that his hands were bloody that first morning, right? Like I know that kid because I was him, and if that's somebody else right now, good for you. Like enjoy that and embrace where you're at, but understand that it's going to keep changing as you stay in the game. Yeah.
I think that we see that a lot generationally. At least I have with my grandfather and my father, and how hard we used to go at certain things like commercial diving for lobster, and now it's gotten to where it's more about spending time with our family, because that's what we do as a family, and it's not about getting to market. It's about actually the quality time that we enjoy and the mellowing out as you go along. I think as young men and same as a young woman, like in the outdoor space, like you're so hungry. You're so like, I got to get those hands bloody. I got to catch that trophy fish. You're so goal oriented. And then you realize like all along that wasn't what it was all about.
Yeah, you were already reaching your goals. You just didn't know.
Quality people will give you a quality experience. And that's really going to
true.
It's really going to, and sometimes, it's very important for you to kind of go out there alone and kind of do your own thing. Like I've had some solid days on the water with just me, myself, and I, and it's meant everything to me. And then I've been able to invite, other people along with me that like that day was that day because that person was with me, whether I touched the fish or not.
No doubt.
And that's like that's made a very big difference. I had to get there like anybody else, because before I just got to touch the fish, and I was just kind of checking out. Like I don't know if anybody else is like this. Like when I'm in the zone and I'm fishing, you might be with me, but I'm not with you. I'm checked out. Like I'm actually like it's me and the fish and the line. I kind of black out in a way. That's just how I am, and I like people that I can be around with that will let me do it.
Yeah.
Right? If you pull me out of that space, I can't be who I actually am, and I'm not as on target as I normally would be. So it's kind of like, let me drift away, like let me get in my little weird space and let me do my thing. Support me. I'll support you if you need to get there as well. But like having that type of person that is a quality enough, friend to let me be in that place, like it's wonderful. When I, whether I hook a fish or not, but when I snap out of it, if you're still there to support me, that's why we're friends.
Yeah.
I think that you actually find, I don't know about you guys, but all my like closest friends, that is something that I share with, is fishing or being outside, right? Mm-hmm. So people like you thought were your best friends when you know they still are friends. Don't get me wrong, like that you grew up with or whatever. But through fishing, like finding that person that like you don't even have to talk about it. Like,
nope.
You're both doing whatever you need to do.
Mm-hmm.
If like you know you hook up on a bull red or you know a tarpon or whatever, the other person's just on
second nature.
Yeah,
right.
just like
absolutely.
drops what they're doing. They're there to help
Absolutely.
you, and vice versa. And you know those are the people like, and I guess whatever your passion is, whether it's you know outside of hunting and fishing, like I'm sure that's the way it is. Like if you find that support person,
It's a legit team player.
yeah,
That's what it is.
and then you really work together, and you don't have to talk.
Nope.
Like there's no words needed
Yeah.
for you to have that connection. Getting super like emotional over here, but like yeah, I mean there's like only a few people on the planet that
I know mine. I know. I'm thinking of my
Right?
crew
Yeah,
right now.
I'm the same.
Right?
The active variants of fishing provide a portal to focus, like a meditative, like almost Zen-like focus that is really difficult to find in other places. And I think that a lot of people don't realize that they're having that experience. But if you're tied on a fish, especially a fish that you had to be active in hooking up with, so I'm not necessarily talking about trolling, I'm not necessarily talking about sitting bait, but if you're casting and actively seeking a fish
Sight fishing.
and you get tied on them,
Yeah.
there could be a nuclear explosion on the
cares?
You
horizon.
won't be
We're landing
moved.
this
And
fish.
You will not be moved.
I wouldn't even notice, right?
Nope.
I would have radiation burns with that fish in the net. And that's a really special thing. And there's so much going on in all of our lives for everybody all the time. There's a lot of static. There's something in the back of your mind. There's something off to the side in the peripherals. And there's very few times that you can narrow in and focus like what you're talking about, where your tunnel vision just becomes you and the rod and the line and the river and the fish or
That's
ocean
it.
or whatever it
Yep.
is. And it doesn't last very long, but man, it
It is a
is
special moment.
pretty
dude.
cool. And
Oh,
when
man.
you come out of that, it's like you just had, a 20-hour nap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a trance.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it absolutely is.
Definitely
Pretty
a
special.
trance.
Yeah.
Okay, Jameson, you travel a lot and you kayak fish all over the country. What advice do you have for somebody who wants to fish brand new water?
Yeah, so it's funny. I actually did another podcast kind of talking about like traveling and fishing, and I think that there's this misconception when it comes to anglers and probably people that hunt as well, that no one wants to share their information. Like I'm not telling you where my spot is, but that's honestly just not really the case. Like most people, when you really get down to it, they may not share the spot within the spot, but they want to share what they've got with others.
Yeah.
Because there's something about that. Like if you come to visit me and I take you and you have a good day on the water and you catch fish, like that's rewarding, right? For me. And so a lot of people are like, once you're willing to put it out there, hey, I'm traveling to this area, whether it's forums or social media, or you met somebody randomly that said, hey, if you're ever in my area, look me up. A lot of people never do that. I just started doing that. Like if I met somebody like, hey, if you're ever over here, look me up. I'm like, all right, what's your number? And then, a year later, I'm like, I'm going to your area. Hey, remember you told me to look you up? And most of the time they're like, yeah, absolutely. You're coming. Sweet. Let's connect. And so you can't beat that personal knowledge, obviously. So don't be afraid to ask for it. Don't be afraid to like just put a post up on a forum or put a post up on a Facebook group, or just if you've got, put it up on your own social media and see if anyone wants to share something. And a lot of times they will. Like I think I mentioned to you that I like to go to Arizona every once in a while and try to coos deer hunt. And I got on a couple of forums and people, like I put up that I'm coming, any information would be awesome because I have no clue what I'm doing. And several people sent me messages and literally sent me pins on maps and like, hey, we rifle hunt. We're not going to even be hunting bow season. Like if we saw deer here, like there's always deer here or whatever. And it's like, just ask. So that would be my biggest thing is like, don't be afraid that people don't want to share information, because most of the time they do. Be respectful of it though. So like if someone shares a spot with me, I've not taken somebody else there without calling them and saying, hey, like, I'd like to go here, but I have a buddy and I don't want to, like, give away your spot or whatever. It's like public, right? No one owns it, but at the same time, people have put the work in to figure it out. So be respectful of that. But other than that, like, just reach out.
I fully agree with you. And with another thing I think people can do is go buy some gear at a local shop. And I think it's important to spend money in the places that you recreate.
Yeah, don't just go in there and ask for help without.
Yeah, but, also, like, support that local economy and, pay with cash. Like, that $20 is going to be $20 when he, goes and buys groceries with it, and then that grocer is going to be able to buy something else with it. It's not necessarily going back to the bank and getting siphoned off 3% at a time. But that shop is they're invested in your success because they want you to come back and buy them out of that color. So they're not going to give you bad information.
Right.
They might have a place that they kind of send everybody to, but they do want to see you succeed. Yeah.
I think too, if you can do it, and I'm kind of lucky now in the sense that I've been doing this for a long time, so I've kind of had this network of friends that we've all met each other and we all share information. But if you don't have that, getting a guide in the area and being upfront with them that, hey, I'm going to be here a week. I can't afford you for a week, but I am going to have my own kayak or my own drift boat or my own skiff with me. I would love to pay you to just teach me some stuff, and then I want to try it on my own, And I don't want to speak for you guys, but most guides that I know are cool with that.
I love it when people are like that. Just jumping on this question first because I'm excited that you brought it up. I love it when people are honest like that.
Yeah, just be honest up front.
Yeah, just be honest.
Don't lie to me.
You don't want to see them out there in their boat the day after they didn't say anything to you.
Do that.
Yeah,
you know what I
I've
mean?
had that happen.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I have as well.
But if they're honest, then you plan your day around that.
Well, my day is about I want to teach you. I want to help you. I want to be able to do this. Like it's like I'm not listening. Man, I could give you my boat. I could give you my ride, every fly I've ever seen, and you still couldn't catch them. There's a difference, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna give you the best opportunity that I can give you to have some success on your own, and I'm going to let you have those spots. But, like, I wouldn't be a guide if that was the spot.
Right.
Like, that's not the one. Right?
Yeah.
So,
like, what I'll do is if somebody wants to come, fly fish on the Six Ranch, and that's what they say. Like, hey, I'm here for 5 days, want to learn how to fish, and, I want to book you for a day. Like, okay, cool. So we're going to fish here. The water that you're going to go fish is different from this water. And what we're going to do is I'm going to help you develop the skills that you need to go fish there.
Correct.
And that's not going to be perfect for right here. It's going to be good enough for right here. But this is about you developing skills today. And then tomorrow, I want you to go to this section of the river that's public access. I want you to have a good time. And if you're struggling, give me a call. I'll be home at 7 o'clock tomorrow night. And, I go to bed at 11. So any time in there, like, give me a shout, let me know how it went, send me a picture. And the times that I've done that, they come back and vacation again the next year and they book me again.
Yeah.
And, I've got people who are just straight up friends now that's how the relationship started with that honesty.
Yep.
I think it's a slippery slope in saltwater, though, because there's so many other elements and moving factors for that particular client to be able to take their skiff or their said boat back to do what you did with them. It's so much more than just the fishing. And I think that there is a huge gap there. So, I have no problem showing someone. However, it's not something that you can learn in a day. I watched a guy put his Hell's Bay in the other day at the ramp with me with his hatchback open, and he pulls out and he's dragging like the tow strap, and it's clanking in between the tires like the whole way back to the ramp. And I'm just looking back like, you should have hired a guide today. Like, you're not
too many
there.
White Claws. That's too many White Claws.
Yeah.
He was probably in his 70s.
Oh, buddy.
And I'm looking at this man, and I'm like, you clearly can afford, to to participate in this sport, but you've waited too long to learn the sport, to be capable to have the success that you're going to have with that guide. So I encourage, and myself as a guide, I book other guides on vacation.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like I
All the
want to
time.
book you. I want to book you. I want to go fish with you. I want to learn from you. I don't know everything.
Yeah.
I don't pretend like I do. And I think even as clients, like they step off your boat with this, like, I can go do this. That wasn't that hard, but they have no idea all of the moving parts that play into it.
Yeah.
So as much as like I want to encourage them, you know, when they call me up and say, hey, I want to book you for a day, but I want to learn the water and bring my boat, and I want you to show me how to fish around here. That's a great idea, but you're not going to learn it in a day.
Yeah.
And you're not going to learn it in a day with the best guide.
And that's a great conversation to have. That's a great conversation to have, but it has to start
there's a realism that has to
with honesty. Yeah.
I always ask,
lay
'cause
out.
I get a fair amount of people that ask me this, and I honestly is like, I mean, you can read them, you know, like I want what's your actual skill level? Like, where are you at? Like, where are you really settled at? You know, like, are you coming out to like trying to just get a little feel of the area? Because if you're just trying to get a feel of the area, you know, like, I mean, you might be okay, you know, and you might be able to go out there next day and you might be able to go get it done. I mean, heck, you might be out with me one day. It's steelheading. Like, you might be out with me one day and I might put you in every dang right spot and you might not catch one. You might go out the next day and go catch one when I'm not even around you. That's just the way it works.
Sure. And
You know?
and steelhead are mean, man. Like, I can't even remember when this was, but I was so dedicated to spay fishing one season, and I wanted to do it on dry flies.
Yeah.
And, man, I swung muddlers forever. And just, you know, I was so committed to it, and I mentally broke because I, at that time, needed to catch a fish to feel good about myself. And I was like, all right, it's time to put on an indicator.
Yay, here we go.
and some nymphs, and I'm going to catch a fish, and I'm going to feel better about it. And on like my third cast, I had a steelhead come up and eat my indicator. And buddy, I wanted to shatter that rod over my knee and like take up knitting or golf or something. Like, it's devastating.
Yeah.
But it also like, it's like, oh, there's a fish in here.
Yeah.
Like, I was starting to wonder, you know, and you're back at it. Another reason that I think it's important to invest in guides is something that I've actually never heard somebody talk about, and that is that nobody is going to care more about the conservation of that species and that resource than guides do. And guides are intimately connected with them on a level that's different from biologists or anyone else. Like the guides are out there all the time, and they may not have the data spreadsheets that all the biologists have, but they're in it all the time, and they've got a really unique perspective. And if that resource starts to drop off, there's no one that's going to care more than the guides, and they're going to continue advocating for that species. And that's a really easy way for you to get a bonus out of it, is by continuing to support those guides. Lacey, something you were talking about that I've been hearing rumblings around is the shark situation in Florida. Tell me about that a little bit, and how it got started, where we're at, and how it's affecting other species.
So with the, net ban that went down in Florida, I think that has played into the amount of sharks that are, obviously not being caught in nets, and their population has increased tremendously and rapidly. And, they're opportunistic.
Mm-hmm.
If they hear a spear gun go off, they react to that noise now. They hear the vibrations from a tarpon as soon as he's hooked, and they go directly to it, like white on rice. Like, here we go. Like, it's happening, and it's happening so much faster. Like, you used to, hook a tarpon, maybe get a handful of jumps, and you could tell when the fish was getting a little finicky. A lot of times in the past couple of seasons, like, you hook a tarpon and you're like, oh, no, break that off. Like, you can hear it in the drag. Like, that is not normal. He's already being attacked.
Wow.
Like it's just instantaneous. So It's a problem.
And
It's a huge problem.
And you're seeing sharks in new areas, hunting redfish and stuff like that too, right?
I wouldn't say it's new areas. I think it's always been as of old, but there was certainly a time in Florida where sharks were commercially fished, and they took that away from the commercial market in Florida, and that has gravely affected. It's just like the wolf situation, and I'm not going to speak for that because I'm not knowledgeable. But from what I hear, let's go reintroduce. So now we have a wolf problem.
Yeah.
And now what do we do?
Yeah.
I got sea lions. It's something everywhere.
Yeah.
It's something everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah. No, if it were the same as the wolves, then we would have replaced the bull sharks with great whites.
Please don't.
They brought in a much bigger wolf than what was native here, and it's like, well,
I can't imagine a great white swimming up to my Hills Bay. I mean, a bull shark is scary enough. Don't fall in. I have a lot of clients. I had a captain, buddy of mine that I used to guide alongside a couple years ago in Boca Grande. Client fell off the boat. He was bobbing along, talking to the captain, didn't think anything of it. All of a sudden, whoop, like yoked down, 8-foot bull shark grabbed him by the leg, popped back up. By the time the captain swung back around and grabbed him, another 12-footer was trying to eat him as he was yoking him in, life flighted him out.
Wow.
So on this river, downriver from here, last week, a salmon shark was found.
Wow.
Okay, and it was about 600 river miles from the ocean. Salmon sharks aren't known to go upriver. And Idaho Fish and Game immediately posted, hey, we got blown up with pictures of this thing. We think it's a prank. Ha, ha, ha. Good for you. And, I made a video about it and talked a little bit about what salmon sharks are, which they're a very cool shark. I learned things like they are somewhat warm-blooded. Mm-hmm. They can control the temperature of their brain and their stomach, even in cold water. That's amazing. So obviously it can survive different environments. Well, after I post this video and it, gets all the views and whatever gets spread around the internet, suddenly I get a message from a biologist who says, hey, you're not getting the whole story. There's actually quite a few of us that think that it swam up there, which is really interesting. There's some studies that indicate that salmon sharks eat as much as 25% of the salmon run in the Pacific Ocean. There's a lot of them out there, and they are related to the great white. Mm-hmm. They're kind of a badass looking shark. So
badass looking shark. Have you seen their teeth?
Yeah.
Woo!
So
whole snaggletooth.
I've got to kind of walk my own opinion back and open up my mind, because maybe we did have a salmon shark swim all the way up the Columbia, up the Snake, and up the Salmon.
Well, bull sharks are known to do that.
Yeah. Sure.
No doubt.
Where do you find the balance, though? So, obviously, you don't want to eliminate sharks.
No, you can't.
And obviously, nets present other problems. Like we have, I don't know if we still do, but gill netting was always a problem in North Carolina. And it's why when I used to fish the IFA tournament trail, they never had a tournament in North Carolina, which is my home state. Because of it. And, it's, there's give and take, and it's as humans, I feel like we always miss that balance. Like you said about the wolves.
Yeah.
We know we messed up, so let's try to fix it, but then we create a new problem.
Mm-hmm. This comes up in conversations all the time about conservation, and people always use the word balance. And I think that it's the right word, but they don't understand how they're using it, because balance is a verb. So balance is something that we're striving for all the time, and there's never a point that the teeter-totter just stops in the middle. So we do rock back and forth, and right now, the wolf population is higher than it needs to be in some areas. It's lower than it needs to be in other areas. While I don't know, it could be that the shark population in Florida was getting too low, so there needed to be a correction. It sounds like now the shark population is too high, so we need to bring in another mechanism. We're a smart species. We can figure this out. We can bring in another mechanism to start moving the teeter-totter in the other way. And I think balance is just something that we're constantly striving for. But within ecology, there's never a point where it's like a terrarium that you could get everything perfect and it will just go
Stay
on
there.
forever in perpetuity. It's just not like that. But that is definitely the simplified Disney version of ecology that is easy to subscribe to. It's just not the reality of it. So I see your point, and I agree with you. But I do think that we have lots of different levers that we can pull, and that we should be willing to take risks and try things. And our ability to monitor is so good now that if something's not working, like, Alaska's commercial seasons sometimes are 4 hours long. And they figure that out, and they like, oh, we hit our quota, we're shut down.
Yeah.
And there's always politics that come into it, and it's always complicated. And I think that that's another thing that I would love for people to understand is that it's never one thing. It's easy to blame the thing that you're mad at, but nature is infinitely complex, and we only understand a fraction of it.
I feel like we're constantly trying to correct nature.
Yep.
And nature corrects itself. And I think that as humans, we don't let nature cycle, in the way that sometimes maybe it was meant to be.
Yeah.
We're always trying to change it. So as much as I do believe that we are capable, I still don't think we fully comprehend it.
No. And that's part of the fun. That's the jigsaw. That's the exquisite mystery that we're all participating in. And how fortunate are we to be able to take that role? Like, it's incredible.
I think it's really important too to talk to the old timers. I think our younger generation has a lack of connection to the old stories.
Yeah, and we discredit anecdotal data.
We do.
It's sometimes for good reason, but there's tremendous value in it too. And we shouldn't just discredit it and throw it to the side. Like, it's worth, going down to the VFW and finding some 87-year-old guy and being like, hey, what did it used to be like?
Yeah.
And you're in for a ride.
Oh, man.
You're in for a ride. Okay. We're at the part of this show where everybody's fascinated with the three of you. How can they?
I'm sorry.
How can they book a tarpon or permit trip with you, Captain Lacey?
So the bat line is LaceyKelly.com. You can contact me through there.
Okay.
We can go from there.
LaceyKelly.com. Lacey Kelly, Captain Lacey on Instagram.
Yeah, Captain Lacey.
Jameson, how can they follow along in your tremendous adventures?
So they can go to YouTube and check out Road Trip Angler on YouTube. It's also airs on Bally Sports Networks nationwide. So check your local listings there. And then Jameson Redding on Instagram.
Cool. Lael?
You can find me on Instagram at Lael Paul Johnson, or you can look me up on the internet at flyguide.com, and it's FLYGYDE. If maybe some of the guiding things that I offer are not in your price range, I have recently started a charity called the Fish Foundation, and it's FYSH, for your sanity and happiness, and I might have an opportunity where I may be able to donate some money to get you out on the water if you're not able to afford it yourself, and you can find me at fishfoundation.org.
Man, I love that.
Awesome. Me too.
I think you and I will do a separate show just to talk about that at some point.
Love to.
Yeah. Thank you guys all so much. I genuinely consider the three of you to be, some of the best anglers in the country. And I think the fact that you take such a philosophical and thoughtful approach to the things that you're doing is really special and meaningful. And you're setting a tremendous example. And it's a pleasure to talk with you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Yep.
Cheers.
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 Thank you all very much for listening. I'm going to keep bringing you these stories from normal people just like you who have done extraordinary things. Everyone is an expert at something, and they have interesting perspectives on life and work and the environment and all of the things that we care about. I'm going to keep bringing that to you. And I want to thank you so much for making this show possible. I also want to thank Emily Bratcher for producing this show. She does a great job editing. Really appreciate her. I want to thank John Chatelain. He did the art for the Six Ranch podcast. And Celia, soon to be Harlander, she digitized that so that we can get it out there on the internet for you. Also want to thank Justin Hay for writing this original music and the beautiful whistling that you're listening to right now. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much. Please keep listening to the show. Write me a review if you feel like it, and just keep doing your thing, and we'll all learn from this together. It's been fun, and we're just getting started.